Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Horizon's Edge, watching the empty stars through the main window. His crew had been traveling for 6 months, looking for new worlds and new life forms. The mission was supposed to be peaceful. They were explorers, not soldiers. "Captain, we have something on the sensors," said Officer Pete Collins from his station. His voice was tight with worry. "Multiple ships approaching fast." Jake moved to look at the screen. 5 large ships were coming toward them. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. The ships looked dangerous, with sharp edges and dark metal that seemed to eat the light around them. "Are they friendly?" asked Jake. "I don't think so, sir," Pete replied. "They're moving into attack formation." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the ship's language expert, looked up from her computer. She had been studying alien languages for years, hoping for a day like this. But now that it was here, she felt scared. "Captain, I'm picking up their communications. They're using a very complex language system." The alien ships surrounded the Horizon's Edge. Jake could see weapons on their hulls. His own ship had some defenses, but nothing like what these aliens had. If they wanted to fight, the humans would lose quickly. "This is Captain Morrison of the human ship Horizon's Edge," Jake said into his radio. "We come in peace. Can you understand us?" There was silence for a long moment. Then a deep, rough voice came through the speakers. The words sounded like rocks, grinding together. Amy worked fast on her computer trying to understand what they were saying. "They're calling themselves the Valkyrie," Amy said quickly. "I think they're asking what we're doing in their space." Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment everything could go wrong. "Tell them we're explorers. We didn't know this was their territory. We want to talk, not fight." Amy spoke into her headset using the few Valkyrie words she had learned. The response came back fast and angry. "Captain, they're not happy," Amy said, "but they're willing to let one of their leaders talk to us. They're sending someone over." 20 minutes later, a small ship docked with the Horizon's Edge. Jake waited in the meeting room with Amy and his security chief, Officer Ron Davis. The door opened and the alien walked in. The Valkyrie leader was huge, almost 8 feet tall. His skin was covered in dark scales, and his eyes were yellow like a snake's. Sharp teeth showed when he spoke. He looked like something that could tear a human in half without trying. "I am Commander Zethkar," the alien said through a small translation device. His voice was deep and threatening. "You are in Valkyrie space without permission. Why should we not destroy your ship?" Jake tried to stay calm. "We didn't know this was your space. We're exploring, looking for new friends among the stars. We mean no harm to you or your people." Zethkar laughed, but it sounded more like a roar. "Friends? Humans are weak. We have heard stories about your kind. You cry over small things. You care for animals that cannot help you. You are prey, not predators." Amy continued translating, but Jake noticed something odd. During their conversation, Zethkar kept looking at a small device on his wrist. It would flash with light, and each time it did, the big alien would tense up. His yellow eyes would narrow with worry. "Commander," Jake said carefully, "is something wrong? You seem distracted." Zethkar's eyes flashed with anger. "That is not your concern, human." But Jake had led people long enough to know when someone was worried about something important. The alien commander was trying to act tough, but something was bothering him badly. The meeting continued for another hour. Zethkar explained that the Valkyrie controlled this part of space. They were warriors who had conquered many worlds. Other aliens feared them. They took what they wanted and destroyed anyone who got in their way. But Jake kept noticing the same thing. Every few minutes, Zethkar would check his wrist device. Each time, he would look more worried. Finally, the device made a soft sound, and the alien commander's shoulders dropped like he had heard bad news. "Commander," Amy said gently, "in human culture, when someone looks worried like you do, it usually means they care about someone. Are your people in trouble?" Zethkar stood up fast, his chair falling backward. "How dare you suggest that Valkyrie have troubles we cannot handle?" But his anger seemed forced. Jake could see pain in those yellow eyes. "We're not trying to insult you," Jake said. "But we've traveled far from home too. We know what it's like to worry about people you care about. For a moment, Zethkar said nothing. He looked at the humans like he was seeing them for the first time. Then he sat back down, his huge frame suddenly looking tired. There is a situation on our homeworld, he said slowly. But it is not something outsiders can help with, especially not humans. Amy leaned forward. Sometimes it helps to talk about problems. Even if we can't fix them, maybe we can understand. Zethkar looked at his wrist device again. The light was flashing red now. He closed his eyes and made a sound that might have been pain. Our young are dying, he said quietly. A sickness has come to our world. Our best healers cannot stop it. Every day more children die. The room went silent. Jake felt his heart skip. Children were dying, and this fierce warrior was trying to handle it alone. How long has this been happening? Amy asked softly. 3 months, Zethkar replied. We have tried everything. Nothing works. Soon there will be no more young Velkari. Jake looked at Amy, then back at the alien commander. An idea was forming in his mind, but it was crazy. Still, sometimes crazy ideas were the only ones worth trying. Commander, Jake said, would you be willing to let our doctors look at the information about this sickness? Maybe fresh eyes could help. Zethkar stared at him. You would help us, even though we threaten to destroy your ship? Children are children, Jake said simply. It doesn't matter what species they are. Commander Zethkar returned to his ship without giving Captain Jake Morrison an answer. The Velkari ship stayed around the human vessel, but they did not attack. Jake knew this was a good sign, but he also knew things could change quickly. 3 hours later, Zethkar came back to the horizon's edge. This time he looked even more tired. His yellow eyes were dark with worry, and his scaled hands shook slightly when he sat down. Captain Morrison, Zethkar said, I have spoken with my leaders. They think I am foolish for even talking to you about this problem. Jake nodded. Sometimes, leaders have to make hard choices. What do you think is right? I think my people are dying, Zethkar said simply. I think I would do anything to save them, even ask for help from humans. Dr. Amy Rodriguez leaned forward. Tell us everything about the sickness. Maybe we can help. Zethkar pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. Images appeared in the air above it. Jake saw pictures of young Velkari, but they looked very different from the adult commander. The young ones were small and covered in soft scales. They had big round eyes and looked almost cute. This is what our children look like, Zethkar said. They are born soft and gentle. They do not grow their hard scales and sharp teeth until they are older. Right now they are all sick. The images changed to show the young Velkari lying in beds. They looked weak and tired. Some were covered in strange spots and others seemed to have trouble breathing. It started 3 months ago, Zethkar continued. One child got sick, then another, then another. Soon, whole families of young were dying. Our doctors tried everything they knew, but nothing worked. Dr. Sam Wright, the ship's doctor, studied the images carefully. He had been quiet during the meeting, but now he spoke up. Can you tell us what symptoms the children have? They get very hot, Zethkar said. They cannot eat. They have trouble breathing. Red spots appear on their skin. Then they get weaker and weaker until they die. Sam looked at Jake with surprise. Captain, those symptoms sound familiar. Very familiar. What do you mean? Jake asked. They sound like diseases we had on Earth hundreds of years ago, Sam said excitedly. Diseases that we learned to cure a long time ago. Zethkar stood up, so fast his chair fell over. Are you saying you know how to heal this sickness? I'm saying maybe, Sam said carefully. I need to study more information. I need to understand how Velkari bodies work. But there might be hope. Zethkar's device beeped again. He looked at it and his face went dark. Another child died while we have been talking, he said quietly. The room went silent. Jake could see the pain in the alien commander's eyes. This was not just about his species surviving. This was personal. "Commander," Jake said, "how many children are sick right now?" "All of them," Zethkar replied. "Every young Velkari on our homeworld has this sickness. Some are worse than others, but they all have it. We have maybe 2 weeks before they all die." Dr. Wright stood up. "Commander, I need you to take medical information back to your doctors. I want them to try something." "What?" Zethkar asked. "On Earth, we learned that sometimes simple things work better than complex ones. Clean water, rest, and certain medicines that help the body fight sickness. I can give you the information, but your doctors will have to make the medicines work for Velkari bodies." Zethkar took the information Dr. Wright gave him, but he did not look hopeful. "My people have tried many things. They will not believe that simple human medicines can work when our advanced treatments have failed." "There's something else," Jake said. "Dr. Wright and his team could come to your world. They could work with your doctors directly." "Impossible," Zethkar said quickly. "No outsider has ever been to our homeworld. My people would never allow it." "Then bring some of the sick children here," suggested Lisa Bennett, the ship's biologist. She had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. "Bring them to our ship. Let our doctors work on them here." Zethkar stared at her like she had asked him to fly into a star. "Bring our young to you? Give our children to aliens?" "Not give," Lisa said gently. "Share. Let us help them get better, then they go home to their families." "You do not understand," Zethkar said, his voice getting louder. "Velkari young are precious beyond anything else in the universe. We protect them with our lives. We have never let anyone outside our species even see them." Jake understood now why this was so hard for the alien commander. "You're asking us to help save your children, but your people don't trust us enough to let us near them." "Yes," Zethkar said simply. "That is exactly the problem." Dr. Wright pulled up information on his computer. "Commander, I've been studying the data you showed us. I think the sickness affecting your children is similar to something called measles that used to kill human children on Earth. We found ways to prevent it and cure it, but I need to work with actual patients to be sure. How do I convince my people to trust you with our most precious treasure?" Zethkar asked. "How do I tell warriors who have conquered worlds that they should give their babies to a species they see as weak?" Amy spoke up quietly. "Maybe you tell them that strength isn't just about fighting. Maybe you tell them that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask for help when your children are dying." Zethkar's communication device beeped again. He looked at it and closed his eyes. When he opened them, there were tears there. Jake had not known that Velkari could cry. "2 more children died," Zethkar whispered. "That is 15 today." The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Jake spoke. "Commander, what if we start small? What if you bring just 1 or 2 of the sickest children? Let our doctors try to help them. If it works, then maybe your people will trust us with more." "And if it does not work?" Zethkar asked. "If the children die while in your care, then at least you tried everything," Jake said. "At least you did not give up." Zethkar stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at his ships and the stars beyond them. "I must return to my people and discuss this. But I will tell you something, Captain Morrison. If you can save our children, the Velkari will remember this forever. We do not forget those who help us when we need it most." "And if we fail?" Jake asked. Zethkar turned back to him. "Then at least our children will die knowing that someone cared enough to try." Commander Zethkar was gone for 2 days. During that time, Captain Jake Morrison and his crew prepared for something they had never done before. They were getting ready to take care of alien children. Dr. Sam Wright worked with engineer Tony Baker to change the medical bay. They needed to make it safe for young Velkari who breathed different air and needed different temperatures than humans. "The air needs to be warmer," Sam said, reading from his notes. "And they need more humidity. Their skin will dry out in our normal air." Tony nodded and started working on the air systems. "What about the beds?" The commander said the children are much smaller than adults. "We'll need to make special beds," Sam replied. and we need soft materials. The young ones don't have hard scales like the adults. They're more like, well, like human babies in some ways. Nurse Kate Sullivan came into the medical bay carrying armfuls of soft blankets and pillows. "I thought these might help make the children more comfortable," she said. Lisa Bennett, the biologist, was studying everything she could find about Velkari biology. "From what the commander showed us, the young ones are very different from the adults. They're born gentle and stay that way for several years. They only grow their armor and teeth when they get older. Like caterpillars becoming butterflies," said Communications Officer Beth Taylor. She had been learning basic Velkari words, hoping to talk to the children when they arrived. Jake watched his crew work and felt proud. They were all volunteers for this mission. No one had been ordered to help. They just wanted to save children, even alien children they had never met. On the third day, Zethkar returned. But this time he was not alone. 3 other Velkari came with him, and they all looked angry. "Captain Morrison," Zethkar said when they met in the conference room, "these are my advisors. They think I have lost my mind." One of the other Velkari, a female with darker scales, spoke harshly. Amy translated quickly. "She says that trusting humans with Velkari young is the most shameful thing any commander has ever suggested." The second advisor, an older male with scars on his face, spoke next. "He says that if the young die in human care, Zethkar should be thrown out of Velkari society forever." Jake looked at Zethkar. "What did you tell them?" "I told them that our children are dying anyway," Zethkar said. "I told them that doing nothing is the same as killing them ourselves." The third advisor, younger than the others, spoke more quietly. Amy listened carefully. "He says that 20 more children died yesterday. He asks how many more must die before they try something new." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Jake spoke. "Commander, we understand this is the hardest decision you've ever had to make. We know that Velkari young are precious to you, but we also know that we might be able to help them." The female advisor hissed something that sounded angry. Amy looked uncomfortable. "She says humans are too weak to understand the value of strong children. She says we probably eat our own young." Kate Sullivan, who had been quiet until now, stood up. Her voice was firm but not angry. "Tell her that human parents would die for their children. Tell her that we have doctors who spend their whole lives learning to save children. Tell her that no human doctor has ever given up on a sick child," Amy translated, and the female advisor looked surprised. She had not expected such strong words from a human. Dr. Wright pulled out his medical tablet. "Commander, I've been studying the information you gave us. I'm more sure now that we can help. The sickness your children have is very similar to diseases we cured on Earth long ago, but I need to see the children to be certain." Zethkar looked at his advisors, then back at the humans. "We have decided to bring 3 children to your ship. They are the sickest ones. If your medicine works on them, we will bring more. If they die—" "They won't die," Sam said confidently. "At least not if I'm right about what's making them sick." 2 hours later, a small Velkari medical ship docked with the horizon's edge. Jake and his medical team waited nervously in the docking bay. They could hear voices through the walls, adult Velkari talking in worried tones. The door opened and Jake saw something that surprised him. The young Velkari were tiny, no bigger than human toddlers. They had soft, pale scales and large, frightened eyes. They looked nothing like the fierce adults. 3 adult Velkari carried the sick children very carefully. Jake could see that these adults were scared. Their hands shook as they held the little ones. "They're so small," Kate whispered. One of the young Velkari made a soft crying sound. Without thinking, Kate stepped forward and made gentle shushing noises, the same sounds human parents make to comfort their babies. The adult Velkari carrying that child stopped and stared at Kate. The young one stopped crying and looked at her with curious eyes. "I think they understand kindness," Lisa said quietly. Dr. Wright examined the first child while the adult Velkari watched every move he made. The child was clearly very sick, hot with fever, breathing hard and covered in red spots. This is definitely similar to what I thought, Sam said. Kate, can you help me make the child more comfortable while I prepare the medicine? Kate gently took the small Velkari and wrapped it in a soft blanket. The child looked up at her and made a sound. That might have been contentment. The adult Velkari who had been carrying the child looked shocked. Your young one trusts her, Jake said to the adult through Amy's translation. The adult Velkari replied, and Amy translated. He says his child has never been calm with a stranger before. He wants to know what magic Kate is using. Kate smiled. No magic. Just the same thing any parent does. Hold them gently and let them know they're safe. As Dr. Wright worked on preparing medicine for the children, something unexpected happened. The human crew members began naturally taking turns, sitting with the young Velkari. Beth Taylor sang quiet songs. Tony Baker made funny faces that made one child giggle weakly. Even tough security chief Ron Davis spoke in gentle tones when he was near them. The adult Velkari watched all of this with growing amazement. One of them spoke to Zethkar and Amy translated. He says he has never seen anyone outside their family care for Velkari young this way. He says the humans treat the children like they are precious. Zethkar nodded slowly. Perhaps that is why their own young survive so well. They know how to care for the helpless. Dr. Wright finished preparing the first dose of medicine. It was based on old Earth treatments for similar diseases, but modified for Velkari biology. This should help, he said, giving the medicine to the sickest child. But it will take time to work, maybe 12 hours before we see improvement. And if it does not work? Asked one of the adult Velkari. Sam looked at the small, sick child in Kate's arms. Then we try something else. We don't give up on children ever. The adult Velkari looked at each other with expressions Jake was learning to read. They were beginning to understand that humans really did care about their young, not because they had to, but because it was simply what humans did. We will wait, Zethkar said, and we will watch. And perhaps we will learn something new about the meaning of strength. 8 hours after Dr. Sam Wright gave the first medicine to the sickest Velkari child, something amazing happened. The little one's fever started to go down. Kate Sullivan had been sitting with the child all night, checking its temperature every hour. When she saw the numbers on her medical scanner getting better, she called Dr. Wright immediately. Sam, you need to see this, she said excitedly. The fever is dropping. Dr. Wright hurried over and checked the child himself. The small Velkari was sleeping peacefully for the first time since arriving on the human ship. Its breathing was easier, and the red spots on its skin were starting to fade. It's working, Sam said with relief. The medicine is actually working. The adult Velkari who had brought the child watched everything carefully. When he saw his young one getting better, tears ran down his scaled face. He spoke to Amy in a shaky voice. He says he cannot believe it, Amy translated. He says his child has not slept peacefully in weeks. Captain Jake Morrison smiled. Tell him this is just the beginning. If this works for one child, it should work for all of them. By the next morning, all 3 young Velkari were getting better. Their fevers were gone, they were eating again, and they were starting to play. The human crew watched in wonder as the children showed their personalities. The smallest one seemed curious about everything. It would reach out with tiny hands to touch whatever was near. Beth Taylor gave it a soft toy from the ship's recreation room, and the child hugged it tightly. The second child was braver than the others. It tried to climb out of its bed to explore the medical bay. Tony Baker had to baby-proof the area to keep it safe. When he was done, the child gave him what looked like a smile. The third child was quiet but friendly. It seemed to like music, so Communications Officer Dan Phillips played gentle songs on his tablet. The child would make soft humming sounds along with the music. They're just like human children in many ways, Lisa Bennett observed. Curious, playful, affectionate. It's hard to believe they'll grow up to be fierce warriors. Commander Zethkar arrived that afternoon to check on the children. When he saw them playing and laughing, he stopped in the doorway like he could not believe his eyes. They look healthy, he said in amazement. They are healthy, Dr. Wright confirmed. The medicine worked perfectly, But Sam, we need to talk about something important. Dr. Wright pulled Zethkar aside. Commander, the medicine that saved these children is very simple. It's not some advanced human technology. It's based on treatments we've used for hundreds of years. I do not understand, Zethkar said. If the cure is simple, why could our doctors not find it? Because sometimes the simple answer is the hardest one to see, explained Dr. Wright. Your doctors were looking for complex solutions to match your advanced technology. But some problems need old-fashioned care. Dan Phillips, who had been listening, spoke up. Commander, can I tell you something? I used to take care of sick animals on Earth before I joined this crew. When I saw your children, they reminded me of baby animals I used to help. The same medicine that worked for Earth creatures worked for your young ones, too. Zethkar looked confused. You treated our children like animals? No, Dan said quickly. I treated them like babies who needed care. It doesn't matter what species they are. Sick young ones need the same things: medicine, comfort, and someone to watch over them. Just then, the smallest child made a happy sound and reached for Zethkar. The big commander carefully picked up the little one, and the child snuggled against his armored chest. Your crew has been caring for our young like this? Zethkar asked. Every hour of every day, Kate said. We take turns so they're never alone. When they cry, we comfort them. When they're scared, we sing to them. When they want to play, we play with them. Even though they are not your own children, they're children, Kate said simply. That's enough. Later that day, Dr. Wright made an important discovery. While studying the blood samples from the recovered children, he found something unexpected. Captain, you need to see this, Sam called. Jake to the lab. The children's immune systems are much stronger now than when they arrived. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means the medicine didn't just cure the disease. It made their bodies better at fighting off sickness. These children are probably healthier now than they were before they got sick. That's wonderful news, Jake said. But why do you look worried? Sam pointed to his computer screen. Because I think I know why the disease spread so fast on the Velkari homeworld. Their children live in very clean, protected environments. They never get exposed to small sicknesses that would make their immune system stronger. Like human children who live in too clean environments and get sick more often. Exactly. The Velkari have been protecting their young so well that they accidentally made them weaker. This was important information. Jake called a meeting with Zethkar and his advisors to share what they had learned. Commander, Jake explained, we think we know why your children got so sick. They need to be exposed to small amounts of germs when they're very young. It makes them stronger. The female advisor, who had been angry before, spoke up. Amy translated. She asks if we are suggesting they should make their children sick on purpose. Not sick, Dr. Wright said, but not completely protected from everything either. On Earth, we learned that children who play in dirt and get small sicknesses grow up healthier. Zethkar thought about this. You are saying we have been hurting our young by protecting them too much? You've been loving them, Kate said gently. But sometimes love means letting children experience small challenges so they can handle big ones later. The youngest advisor spoke and Amy translated. He says this makes sense. He remembers that in the old days, before they had advanced medicine, Velkari children were stronger. There's something else, Jake said. We'd like to offer ongoing help. We could teach your doctors how to make the medicine your children need, and maybe we could set up an exchange program. What kind of exchange? Zethkar asked. Human families could host young Velkari who need medical treatment. In return, adult Velkari could help protect human colonies. We take care of each other's children. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then the smallest recovered child ran into the meeting room, chasing the toy ball that Tony had made for her. She ran straight to Kate and climbed into her lap, chattering happily in baby Velkari. Kate hugged the child and looked at Zethkar. She trusts me completely now. Yesterday she was dying, and today she's playing. That's what happens when different people work together to help children. Zethkar watched the human woman holding the Velkari child with such obvious love and care. I think, he said slowly, that we have much to learn from humans about the true meaning of strength. The female advisor who had been the most opposed to trusting humans spoke quietly. Amy translated. She says she was wrong about humans being weak. She says anyone who can save dying children and ask for nothing in return is stronger than any warrior. We're not asking for nothing, Jake said. We're asking for friendship. We're asking for a chance to learn from each other and help each other's children grow up safe and healthy. Zethkar nodded. I think that is a bargain any parent would make. 6 months after the first Valkyrie children were saved, Captain Jake Morrison received a message that changed everything. It came from the Galactic Communication Network, the system that connected hundreds of different alien species across the galaxy. Captain, said Communications Officer Beth Taylor. You're going to want to hear this. It's about us. Jake listened to the translated message with growing amazement. It was from a species called the Telonians, who lived on the other side of the galaxy. They had heard the story of how humans saved Valkyrie children, and they needed help with their own young ones. A plague is killing our hatchlings, the message said. We have heard that humans can save children of any species. Please help us. Over the next few days, more messages arrived. The crystalline beings of the Andorian system had a problem with their young ones growing too slowly. The forest dwellers of Kepler 442 had children who were born with breathing problems. The ocean people of Titan 7 had babies who were dying from unknown causes. All of them had heard the same story. All of them wanted human help. How did they all find out about what we did? Jake asked Amy Rodriguez, who was monitoring galactic communications. Apparently, the Valkyrie have been telling everyone, Amy replied with a smile. Commander Zethkar has been traveling to different worlds, sharing our story. He calls humans the child protectors. Dr. Sam Wright was excited about the new requests for help, but also worried. Captain, we can't save every sick child in the galaxy by ourselves. We need a bigger plan. What do you suggest? We need to train other humans to do what we did. We need to set up medical teams that specialize in helping alien children. And we need to learn more about how different species raise their young. Jake liked this idea. Within a month, the human government had approved something called the Universal Child Care Initiative. Human doctors, nurses, and child care experts would travel throughout the galaxy, learning about alien children and sharing human knowledge about taking care of the young. The first major success came on the Telonian homeworld. Dr. Wright and his team discovered that young Telonians were dying because they needed a mineral that was common on Earth, but rare on their planet. The solution was simple: add the mineral to their food. But something even more important happened. The human team noticed that adult Telonians rarely played with their children. Young Telonians learned by watching, but they never got to just have fun. On Earth, play is how children learn best, explained Kate Sullivan to the confused Telonian parents. When children play, they get stronger, smarter, and happier. The humans taught the Telonians simple games. They showed them how to make toys from everyday objects. They demonstrated how play fighting could help young Telonians learn to defend themselves without anyone getting hurt. Within weeks, young Telonians were healthier and more active than anyone had seen before. But the biggest change was in the adult Telonians. They started enjoying time with their children in ways they never had before. We never knew that caring for young could be fun, one Telonian parent told Kate. We thought it was just work, but humans showed us that loving children means enjoying them too. Similar stories came from other worlds. On the crystalline homeworld, human experts discovered that the young ones grew slowly because they needed more physical contact with their parents. Crystalline adults had thought touching their children too much would make them weak. Humans showed them that gentle touch actually helped children grow stronger. On Kepler 442, the forest dwellers learned that their children's breathing problems came from air that was too clean. Like the Valkyrie, they had been protecting their young ones too much. Human teachers showed them how to gradually expose children to natural environments, making their lungs stronger. But the most surprising change happened on Earth itself. As human families began hosting young aliens for medical treatment, something wonderful occurred. Human children started growing up with alien friends. Jake visited one such family on his next trip to Earth. The Martinez family in California was caring for a young Velkari named Keth while his immune system grew stronger. Their 8-year-old daughter, Maria, was teaching Keth how to ride a bicycle. "Keth is really good at math," Maria told Jake proudly. "And he taught me how to make that humming sound that Velkari do when they're happy. We're best friends now." Jake watched the human girl and the young Velkari playing together like any two children would. It was exactly what he had hoped would happen. Mrs. Martinez spoke to Jake while they watched the children play. "When we first agreed to take care of Keth, we were nervous. We'd never met an alien before, but he's just a child who needed love and care. Now our family feels bigger." The program expanded quickly. Soon there were human child care centers on dozens of alien worlds. Alien children came to Earth for medical treatment and stayed with human families. Human children grew up learning about different species and cultures. But the most important change was in how different species saw each other. The fierce Velkari became protectors of human colonies, seeing humans as extended family. Other alien species started working together in ways they never had before. Jake received a message from Commander Zethkar on the first anniversary of their meeting. The message was simple, but powerful. "Captain Morrison," it said, "1 year ago, you told me that children are children, no matter what species they are. Today, every species in this part of the galaxy knows that truth. We have all learned why even predators trust humans with their offspring. It is because humans understand that protecting children is not about being strong or weak. It is about love." The message continued. "Because of what humans taught us, child mortality rates have dropped by 90% on 47 different worlds. More importantly, parents from dozens of species now know how to truly enjoy their children. You have not just saved lives, you have made families happier across the galaxy." Jake stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, looking out at a space station that had been built just for the Universal Child Care Initiative. Through the windows he could see children from 12 different species playing together, while their parents worked on important galactic projects. Dr. Wright joined him at the window. "You know what I realized today?" Sam said. "What's that?" "We came out here looking for new life and new worlds. Instead, we found something even better. We found out that love for children is universal. Every species, no matter how different, wants their young ones to be safe and happy." Jake nodded. "And we found out that humans have something special to offer the galaxy. Not our technology or our weapons, but our ability to care for any child that needs help." A small Velkari child ran past the window, chasing a human girl and a young crystalline being. All three were laughing in their own species' way, but the joy on their faces was exactly the same. "Look at that," Jake said with a smile. A year ago, those three species had never even met each other. Now their children are best friends. "That's the real victory," Sam replied. "Not just that we saved some lives, but that we helped different species become one big family." As Jake watched the children play, he thought about how the galaxy had changed. Fear between species was being replaced by cooperation. Distrust was becoming friendship. And it all started because humans had shown that the most important thing in the universe was protecting and caring for the young. Today, everyone in the galaxy knew why even predators trusted humans with their offspring. It was because humans had proven that true strength came not from weapons or technology, but from the willingness to love and protect any child who needed help, regardless of what species they came from.